this very moment, somewhere in your city, two neighbors are making the exact same amount of money. Same salary, same mortgage, same number of kids, same supermarket. But in 10 years, one of them will own his future, and the other one will still be owned by his past. The difference between them is not income. It is not luck. It is not the economy. It is one invisible habit that compounds every single day. And most people never see it until it is far too late. This is the story of No One Told Me, and Now I Know How. They grew up on the same street, went to the same high school. Both were sharp kids. Teachers liked them, grades were decent, and their parents worked hard blue-collar jobs. Neither of them inherited money. Neither of them had a financial mentor. They were equal in every way that most people point to when they explain why someone ends up rich or poor. Same starting line, same city, same era. They even went to college at similar schools, graduated within a year of each other, and entered the workforce in their mid-20s with starting salaries that sat within a few $1,000s of each other. Both landed stable jobs. Both rented apartments for a few years, then bought homes in the same price range. Both got married. Both have cars. Both have streaming subscriptions and gym memberships, and the occasional weekend restaurant dinner. At 40 years old, you would look at their lives from the outside and call them identical. You would be completely wrong. Because when you look inside their wallets, their bank statements, their credit card histories, and their investment portfolios, you are not looking at two similar men. You are looking at two different financial species. And the gap between them was not created by a windfall or a disaster. It was built dollar by dollar, decision by decision, over 20 years of daily financial behavior, most of it invisible, all of it compounding. That is what this video is about. The debt mirror. The moment when No One Told Me finally looks at what his financial habits have actually built and realizes he has been building the wrong thing his entire adult life. Let us start at the beginning. No One Told Me got his first real paycheck at 22. It felt enormous. After years of student loans and part-time jobs and living on campus meal plans, seeing that number hit his checking account felt like freedom. He took his girlfriend out to dinner. He bought a new pair of shoes he had been watching for months. He put a little in savings, $200 because someone once told him saving was important. He told himself he would be more disciplined next month. Next month came. Same story, different purchase. Now I Know How got his first paycheck the same week, same size. He sat down with a notebook, not a spreadsheet, not an app, just a notebook, and wrote down every dollar he expected to spend that month. Rent, groceries, transportation, utilities. Then he subtracted that total from his take-home pay. What was left, he split into two buckets: an emergency fund he was building toward 3 months of expenses, and a brokerage account he had opened specifically for index fund investing. He paid those two buckets first, before any discretionary spending, before any going out, before any new shoes. He lived on what remained. This is what the economist and behavioral finance pioneer Richard Thaler calls mental accounting. The act of deliberately assigning money to categories before the emotional brain has a chance to spend it. Now, I Know How did not read Thaler's research at 22. He just intuitively understood that money without a label disappears. Money with a label tends to stay. No One Told Me's money had no labels. It flowed in and flowed out like water through an open hand. By the time they were both 25, the gap was not visible yet. No One Told Me had a nice apartment, a decent car, and a vague sense that he was doing okay because he had never missed a bill payment. Now, I Know How had a similar apartment, a similar car, and approximately $18,000 in investment accounts. No One Told Me had about $600 in savings, Neither of them could feel the gap yet, but the gap was already yawning open beneath their feet. Here is where the debt mirror starts to form. At 26, no one told me got a raise. A real one. 8%, almost $4,000 additional dollars per year. He felt the upgrade immediately. The apartment got slightly nicer. The car got slightly newer. The dinners out got slightly more frequent. He did not make a conscious decision to spend more. He simply spent at the level his new income allowed, the way water fills whatever container it is poured into. This phenomenon has a name. Economists call it lifestyle inflation, and no one told me was living inside it without knowing it had a name. Now I know how got the same raise. He upgraded nothing. His apartment stayed the same. His car stayed the same. His grocery bills stayed the same. Every dollar of the raise went directly into his investment account, not because he was miserable or depriving himself. He was happy. He just refused to let his lifestyle expand with his income until his financial foundation was strong enough to support the expansion without cracking. Between 25 and 35, both of them received multiple raises. No one told me consumed every single one. Now I know how invested the majority of every single one. By 35, now I know how had invested over $90,000 across a decade. No one told me had invested almost nothing. A few hundred here and there that never had time to grow before a car repair or a vacation or a perceived emergency drained them back to zero. Now here is where compound interest does something most people do not emotionally understand until it is too late to benefit from it. Albert Einstein is often quoted, perhaps apocryphally, as calling compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Whether he said it or not, the math is correct. The most important thing about compound interest is not the rate. It is time. And time is the one thing you can never buy back. Now I know how's $90,000 invested over 10 years, earning an average annual return of roughly 8%, which is consistent with the historical long-term average return of the S&P 500 as documented in studies from Vanguard and countless independent researchers. Had already grown to approximately $190,000 by his 35th birthday. He had contributed $90,000. The market had given him $100,000 in pure compounded growth. He had been paid to be patient. No one told me had approximately $4,000 in savings, not invested, just sitting in a standard savings account earning less than 1% interest per year. Look at those two numbers again. 190,000, 4,000. These are two men who graduated the same year, from the same neighborhood, earning the same salaries. Now, let us talk about the part nobody tells you about, the debt side of the mirror. While Now I Know How was building an asset column, no one told me was building a liability column. And he was building it enthusiastically because that is what modern consumer culture is brilliantly designed to make you do. The car loans. Every 3 to 4 years, no one told me upgraded his car. Not to a luxury vehicle, just a nicer one. Each time he took out a loan. Each loan came with monthly payments and interest charges. Over 20 years, no one told me spent approximately $42,000 on car loan interest alone. Not on cars. On the interest charged for the privilege of driving a car he could not fully afford the moment he bought it. Now I Know How drove a paid-off car for 9 years before replacing it. He saved up a significant down payment, shortened the loan term, and paid it off early. His total car loan interest over 20 years was under $6,000. Same transportation outcome, $36,000 difference. The credit cards, no one told me, did not carry extreme debt. He was not the stereotype of someone drowning in maxed out cards. He was subtler than that. He carried a rolling balance of between $3,000 and $8,000 across 2 credit cards, paying the minimum or slightly above each month. This is the behavior that Federal Reserve researchers have identified as one of the most common and most costly patterns in American household finance. No One Told Me thought he was managing it. He was paying roughly 22% interest per year on money he had already spent on things he could no longer use or remember. At 35, he calculated, for the first time ever with real numbers, that he had paid over $14,000 in credit card interest over the previous decade. $14,000 to borrow money for a lifestyle he could almost afford. The lending trap. Now this one is painful because it comes wrapped in something that looks like love. No One Told Me is a generous man. When his brother needed help with rent, No One Told Me lent it. When his cousin needed money to fix a car, No One Told Me helped. When his college friend asked for a loan to cover a gap between jobs, No One Told Me said yes without hesitation. Over 12 years, he lent approximately $19,000 to family and friends. He received back approximately $6,000. The remaining $13,000 was not stolen from him. It simply never came back because the people who borrowed it could not repay it. And No One Told Me loved them too much to push. Now I Know How drew a firm and clear line. He was generous in other ways. He picked up dinner, he gave gifts, he showed up when people needed help moving or needed a ride. But he had a rule about money lending. He would only give what he could afford to give permanently. If a family member needed $500 urgently, and he had $500 he could spare without impacting his financial plan, he would give it as a gift and expect nothing back. This protected the relationship from the toxicity of unpaid debt, and it protected his financial plan from the slow erosion of money that leaves and never returns. The behavioral economist Dan Ariely spent years studying exactly this pattern, the way social pressure and emotional generosity override rational financial decision-making in real time. No One Told Me was not foolish, he was human, and he was operating without a system that could protect his human instincts from his long-term interests. The mortgage. Both men bought homes at 28. Similar prices, similar neighborhoods, similar mortgage rates. But here is where the stories diverge in a way that creates a permanent financial scar. No One Told Me made the minimum mortgage payment every month, just the required amount. It felt like enough. He was a homeowner after all. He was building equity. He was told this was the responsible thing. Now I Know How paid an extra $200 toward principal every single month from the very first payment. Not because he was wealthy, because he understood amortization, the mathematical schedule that front-loads interest payments in the early years of a mortgage, meaning that most of your first years of payments are going almost entirely to the bank and almost nothing to your ownership stake. By adding $200 to principal each month, Now I Know How was accelerating his way through the interest-heavy early years and building equity at nearly twice the rate. By 40, both men still had mortgages, but Now I Know How had paid off nearly 60% of his loan balance. No One Told Me had paid off approximately 22% of his. Same house price, same starting mortgage, 18 years of payments. But one man owned significantly more of his home than the other, because he understood how the math worked and acted on it. Now come the emergencies, because life does not wait for you to be ready. Between the ages of 30 and 40, both men faced a series of financial shocks. The water heater failed. The car needed unexpected major repairs. A medical bill arrived that insurance did not fully cover. A period of reduced hours at work created a temporary income gap. When these things happened to Now I Know How, he opened his emergency fund. He had maintained between 4 and 8 months of living expenses in a high-yield savings account since his late 20s. The emergency was absorbed. The investment accounts were untouched. The mortgage was paid. He experienced stress, but not financial devastation. Within a few months, he had replenished the emergency fund and continued exactly where he had left off. When these same things happened to No One Told Me, he made a phone call, or he reached for a credit card, Or he drained the small savings he had managed to accumulate. Each emergency reset him. Each reset pushed the starting line further away. The financial security he thought he was building kept evaporating, not because of catastrophe, but because the infrastructure to withstand ordinary life events was never built. The Nobel Prize-winning economist Robert Shiller has written extensively about this pattern. The way financial fragility compounds itself, not through dramatic failure, but through the slow accumulation of small collapses that never quite let you stabilize. No One Told Me was living inside Shiller's research without knowing it. Every emergency was manageable in isolation. Together they formed a ceiling he could never get above. Let us now put this all together. At 40 years old, No One Told Me earns a solid income. He pays his bills. His credit score is decent. He has a mortgage, a car, a family, a good life by almost any social measure. He has approximately $12,000 in a savings account. He has a small 401k from his job, about $34,000, that he contributed to intermittently, mostly at the employer match level, sometimes pausing contributions during tight months. He has 2 credit cards with a combined balance of about $6,000. He has car payments. He has a mortgage where he still owes nearly 80% of the original loan balance. His total net worth, assets minus liabilities, is approximately $68,000. Most of that is the equity in his home. Without the house, he has almost nothing. Now Knowhow earns a similar income. He has a mortgage that is more than half paid off. He has a car he owns outright. He has 0 credit card debt. He has an emergency fund with 6 months of expenses. He has his investment accounts, the brokerage account he started at 22, the 401k he has maxed out every year for 15 years, and a Roth IRA he opened in his 30s. His total investment portfolio is valued at approximately $420,000. His total net worth is approximately $560,000. Same income, same neighborhood, same age, $68,000 versus $560,000. The debt mirror is not about how much you earn. It is about what you build with what you earn. And the mirror shows No One Told Me exactly where every dollar of his salary went. Not to an emergency, not to a disaster, not to someone else's fault, to the gap between his income and his system. Now Knowhow does not live in a mansion. He does not drive a luxury car. He does not vacation in places that require a passport every year. He lives comfortably without financial anxiety, within a structure that took him 20 years to build, one tracked expense at a time, one automated investment at a time, one emergency fund deposit at a time. And here is the question the debt mirror forces you to ask. If you looked at your own financial statement today, not your income, not your job title, not how your life looks from the outside, but the actual numbers, the actual asset column versus the actual liability column, what would the mirror show you? Because the mirror does not lie. The mirror does not care about your salary. It only cares about the gap between what came in and what you built with it. No One Told Me is not a bad person. He is not lazy. He is not irresponsible in the ways society normally judges irresponsibility. He is simply someone who was never given a system. And without a system, every dollar makes its own decision. And money, left to its own decisions, almost always flows toward immediate comfort and away from long-term growth. Now Knowhow built a system at 22 years old. The system was not complicated. Track your spending. Invest first. Build an emergency fund. Pay extra on debt. Never lend what you cannot give. The system did not require deprivation. It required intention. And intention, compounded over 20 years, is worth approximately $492,000. That is the difference between their net worth figures. $492,000, the price of having a system versus not having one, the cost of financing a lifestyle versus building assets. The mathematics of spending before investing versus investing before spending. You are not 40 yet. Or maybe you are. Or maybe you are past it. It does not matter. What matters is that the mirror is available to you right now. The mirror is simply the act of writing down what you own and what you owe, and looking at the number. Your assets, your liabilities, the space between them is your net worth. And net worth, not income, not lifestyle, not the car in your driveway, is the only number that tells you where you actually stand. Start the system, any version of the system. Track your spending for 30 days. Identify one automatic investment you can start this week, even if it is $25. Separate your emergency fund from your spending account so that ordinary life events do not devour ordinary progress. Stop lending money you cannot afford to give. Pay something extra on your highest interest debt, even if it is $50 a month. None of this is dramatic. None of this will make your life look different from the outside next month. But in 10 years, in 20 years, the mirror will show you something entirely different than what it shows no one told me at 40. Because the debt mirror does not care where you started. It only reflects what you built. And somewhere right now, two people are earning the exact same salary. One of them is building an asset column. One of them is building a liability column. The only difference between them is a system. And the only time to build the system is before you need it. Start today, not next month. Today, because no one told himself he would start next month, and the mirror never forgot.